Good morning, beloved. I am Reverend Dr. Robin Tanner. I have the honor of being a member of the lead ministry team here at Beacon. I am fresh back from visiting our partners in Northeast India in July, and it was an amazing trip that we'll share more about soon. And I am also simultaneously just delighted to see your faces and to be here today. I want to welcome you to Beacon Unitarian Universalist congregation. Welcome into a place of authenticity, of joy, of love, and liberation. Does anyone want some of that today? Yes. You down for that? Good. Together, we are, as a Beacon, committed to being radically inclusive, to feeding the human spirit and healing the world and having a little fun while we do it. On this bright March day, we are delighted to welcome a special soloist who is with us, Ross Lekites, who I believe is up in the balcony. Hi, Ross. Ross has appeared on Broadway in The Music Man, Tina, Frozen, and Kinky Boots. He starred as Tony in West Side Story for the national tour, as well as at London's Royal Albert Hall. He's also appeared with orchestras, including the Boston Pops, the Philly Pops, and the San Diego Symphony. Would you give a warm Beacon welcome to Ross? Thank you so much, Ross. Between Ross and John, I'm just telling you, it's a very exciting service musically. You're in for a treat. And this is indeed a very special Sunday as we unveil the design for our Beacon 2.0, which we are planning for 695 Springfield Avenue, just down the road a piece. I want to recognize the facilities expansion team. Some of the members were at our first service, some are here in the second. Before I introduce the architect to you who is here with us. So Steve Kramer, who is here with us today, Michelle Blanchard, who I believe was with us at our first service and maybe downstairs, Gib Freeman, Jessica Park, Norm Miller up in the balcony. I see you, Norm. Helen Kerr and Gary Buscemi. Would you give a round of gratitude for the incredible work of this team? Jessica Park yesterday in some of our conversations and meetings had a beautiful metaphor. She said, you know, I feel like a parent who got the most amazing gift for my child and we're just ready to open it. And indeed, it is that feeling of being so grateful for the work of Louis Cherry, our architect, and his team, and the incredible vision that you are casting. And so with that, I'd like to invite Louis forward to say a few words and also make sure all of you know we have a reception after this service. Please do spend some time with Louis and the team. Louis?
This has been an amazing immersion for us, my team. Jessica Nesnick and Allison Krupp are downstairs and still talking with people from the first service. And for quite a few months now, we've been kind of living and breathing the Beacon values, sort of digging into a lot of the needs and wants, but very importantly, to try to really capture the spirit and the essence of how a building and a site can help you fulfill your mission. And we are really excited about the positivity and the energy that we've kind of felt with everyone this weekend. So after the service, we'll be downstairs and we have some boards that illustrate the design. We have the presentation that we made yesterday is running on a loop, and myself and Jessica and Allison are there to answer questions and help you kind of get up to speed with us. We realized after this presentation yesterday, if you haven't seen any of this, and there are like 80 images, and it's like a lot to take in. And so we're here to help you process that and move forward at figuring out how to get it built, and really appreciate the warm welcome that me and my staff have had this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Louis. And Hello, everyone. I'm Emily Bogus. I'm one of the other ministers here at Beacon and on the lead ministry team. I know that I've just come out of the robing room and Robin went into the robing room. I promise you we're two individual people and that you'll see us together later. Unfortunately, Will, who does our live stream, is burying his father in Africa over the course of 2 weeks. And so Robin and I are back and forth, making sure that everybody online can be a part of this amazing service. So you'll see us together later. And right now we're amazingly live streaming things. So I'd like to welcome forward Scott Schnipper, our worship associate, who will lead us in our chalice lighting.
Good morning, Beacon. I'm Scott Schnipper, and our chalice lighting is entitled Why We're Here by Eric Walker Wickstrom. Here today, in this place with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice we light our way.
Thank you, Scott. Let us rise now in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, Morning Has Broken.
Broken like the first morning, blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the cleanness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where his feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born on the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
This morning's service is a reflection in 4 parts led by members of this congregation. The first is about the dreams of this community, and I'd like to welcome forward Marilyn Faltz.
Our family has had a very long connection to Beacon and its history. In 1941, my husband Hugo's family joined the Unitarian Church in Summit, attracted by the stirring sermons of A. Powell Davies. He was a young minister just beginning his career here in Summit. The Sunday school was upstairs, And Hugo loved to report that in those days, they met up there but had to whisper so they didn't disturb the service downstairs. And then they found a much better place, which was the basement, which had a dirt floor. Recognizing the need for more room, the church bought a building on the corner of Whitridge and Summit. And if you can imagine, in those mornings on Sunday, families would arrive and they'd bring their children to Whitridge, and then they'd come to the service, and then they'd go back up and pick up their children at the building at the corner of Whitridge and Summit. And that's the way it was when we came and joined the church, 1960, and Jake Trapp was the minister. Hugo's parents were devoted members, and we joined because of them. And we began to invest in the dream of the congregation, a dream for a place where we all could be in one building and one property and able to gather together for services and celebrations, and where the generations to come could all be together. Committees were formed to explore the options. Many new possible building sites were visited, and as you can imagine, Hugo had many interesting suggestions. We talked to the Christian Science Church across the street. Was it possible to pick up this church and move it down the street to our property? And it turns out that those wires and various obstructions were making it unable to do that. So we finally came to the solution, what we thought was possible at the time: sell Whitridge, use the money, move this church up, and dig out Fellowship Hall on this 0.2-acre property. And we combined the classrooms and the offices so we had one building. Charlotte Gilson, who was a longtime member, once remarked, not once, many times, she said, "We have lusted after the Dengle property all the times that I've been here." Finally, we had the whole Unitarian church in one spot, and the congregation began to grow rapidly. Our wonderful children's programs were attracting new young families. I remember very well the morning that we arrived for the service, and the entire sanctuary had red tape caution strips on all the chairs from which you could not see the pulpit. The sanctuary was ablaze in yellow. And then it became quite apparent that our dream was still a dream to find the special place. For years, Hugo walked to work, which was a mile away, downtown Summit. I think this is when he got his visions. He was an independent thinker. Out of the box was his specialty. Most of us dream, but Hugo envisioned, and unerringly began the steps to make his visions happen, sometimes to my great consternation. He walked home one night and announced that 695 Springfield Avenue, the Red Cross property, would be the perfect place for the Unitarian Church. He began the first of his frequent calls to the newly installed director of the Red Cross, a good friend, Christy Hoddy. He suggested to her that the property was really too big for them, often suggesting new possibilities for their move. A few days ago, I called Christy just to check some dates, and I said, "When did he start those calls?" And she said, "The first week that I got there in 2004. And she said, "You know, he called frequently over the years." Well, now we're at 2023, and we have sought our impossible dream and searched for the impossible star. And now we are ready to begin a huge project. And we are all committed, and it's up to us to bring it to fruition.
My name is Mary Lee Crawley, and my pronouns are she and her. and I'm a chaplain here at Beacon. Chaplains extend the spiritual care of our community. And one ritual of our spiritual care is our community candle lighting. Together, we light candles of joy, sorrow, and gratitude. This morning, we light a candle of memory for Beacon's ancestors from our founders in 1908 forward. A candle of solidarity with our under one roofers who brought our adult and children's communities together at the beginning of a new century. A candle of deep gratitude for leaders like Margaret Babcock and her facilities expansion team, whose tireless work led us. A candle of community for all of us in this moment, dreamers, hopers, believers, with a new vision of our home. A candle of hope that all of our actions through our long history will lead to the flourishing of beloved community. For all who will come after us, members, friends, fans, neighbors, partners here and abroad. Speaking of partners abroad, we light a candle for Wim Sweldens, who is abroad in Belgium caring for his ailing mother, and a candle of welcome home to Jean Crichton, Eric Solberg, Reverend Mary Early-Zald, and Reverend Robin for traveling to our partner church in Jawai, India, and representing our congregation, as well as connecting there with our Hungarian partners from Barrow. For this and so much more, we invite you to come forward and light a candle here in our sanctuary or at home.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So my name is Madan Gounder. For those of you who may not know me, I have been at Beacon for a little over 8 years now. When I first walked through the doors of Beacon in November 2014, I came pursuing a vague notion of community and a hope that I would find something, not sure exactly what, but something that would be good for me. I had no clear definition of what I was needing at that time, but I hoped I would recognize it if I saw it. My intuition guided me, but my hope fueled my search. I did find community here, but I also found what I needed. I feel I have become a fuller, more self-reflective, complete person for the spiritual journey I have traveled in community with you all here at Beacon. I now have many memories of enlightening, fulfilling, and fun memories right here within these walls. Most significantly, on November 14th, 2017, I married the love of my life, more or less where I stand right now, looking out at this sanctuary filled with people from every chapter of my life. These are powerful, cherished memories that originated with little more than intuition and hope all those years ago. My personal triumph of hope has been matched along the way in the triumph of hope I have seen within this congregation. I had the privilege of serving on the Beacon Board of Trustees for the past 5 years, ending this past summer, and also serving as president of the board in my final 2 years. In serving on the board, I was always in awe of all that Beacon is. As president, I also had the perverse, somewhat dubious good fortune of leading the board during the depths of a global pandemic. And I was fortunate because I witnessed how Beacon was capable of overcoming extraordinary challenges and unprecedented uncertainty to continue to live out our mission within and outside these walls. I saw hope triumph as this congregation acted decisively, voting nearly unanimously to acquire the property at 695 Springfield Avenue so that we may build a still brighter Beacon. The coincidence of the pandemic and the property purchase revealed to me the power of Beacon and the need to build a larger, brighter one. In a post-pandemic world, I hope to see a larger Beacon built at 695 Springfield Avenue that amplifies our mission within and outside its larger walls. Our current sanctuary is comfortable and filled with so many great memories. It caters so well to our needs. But does it cater well to those not yet present? In building a new physical Beacon, we are building for the triumph of hope that will be the Beacon of the future. Not unlike my own personal journey, it requires hope and intuition. We do not and will not have all the answers as to how a new Beacon will transform our congregation and each of us individually. But I have hope that it will satisfy additional needs we have not yet realized. I have hope that it will create the kind of inclusive space that invites many more people into our congregation than is possible today. I have hope that it will facilitate a growing Beacon community that, enriched within its larger walls, will be capable of spreading our mission further than we could imagine from within these walls. It is that hope that enables me, with fondness and gratitude, to release this cherished space from its role as our sanctuary. And as a new sanctuary rises at 695 Springfield Avenue, I'm filled with hope and excitement for where Beacon will go in the coming years and the countless people who will benefit, much like I did not so long ago.
madam. I'd like now to invite us to rise in body or in spirit for hymn number 205, Amazing Grace. We are going to sing the first two verses, and then we're going to return back to the first one again. Please rise.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see.
Good morning. I'm Steve Kramer. I'm on the facilities expansion team, which is working on the plans for the new building and grounds at 695 Springfield. I grew up a Unitarian Universalist, attending what is now called River Road Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Bethesda, Maryland.
Hold on one second. Hey, Henry, can he be louder? Thank you.
Thanks, Henry.
Start that sentence again, Steve.
Okay. Just in case you didn't hear. I grew up a Unitarian Universalist. I attended River Road Unitarian Universalist Congregation in where? Bethesda, Maryland. Oh, they heard it. Okay. It's a building that opened in 1964, and it was something completely new. It was a beautiful modernist structure with lots of wood and light, and it was set in a wooded site. And I fell in love with that building as a child, and it caused me to fall in love with architecture, and I eventually studied architecture in graduate school, and that my obsession with architecture is probably how I ended up on the FET. My mother still attends that congregation in River Road, and so having seen that building and having it as part of my life over 6 decades has shown me how profoundly a building can embody the principles of a congregation and shape how it develops. In many ways, River Road Unitarian Universalist was also a beacon because of its building. And it makes me wonder about all the other religious buildings I see out there in the world. The world is full of them. We're in one, of course, right now, and there's a religious building across the street, the Christian Scientists, and there are others scattered along Springfield Avenue and Morris Avenue and throughout Summit and in every town and city and country in the world. There are shrines, temples, grave markers, churches, synagogues, fire circles, cathedrals, monasteries, altars, chapels, pagodas, meeting houses. I could go on. They're everywhere. And it's one of the most remarkable things that humans do. In every place and every era of our history, we build these structures and spaces to commemorate, to sanctify, to glorify, to show that there is an aspect of our lives that is not governed by everyday concerns. With religious buildings, we are reaching out beyond what is merely practical or comfortable, and that gives those buildings a distinctive character. I think of the room that we're in right now. We call it a sanctuary. Even the word is distinctive. It means a place of refuge, a consecrated place. How often are you in a building that has a room, or even that feels like a room, called a sanctuary? For most of us, it is just this one day a week. All these religious buildings are monuments to the beliefs of the people who built them, to the communities of believers who sacrificed so much to construct something that represents them. We at Beacon are one of those communities of believers, a community centered on our covenant to one another. We aren't shy about our belief that the world needs more love and justice, and that we want to do something about it. We're here to feed the human spirit and heal the world, as we tell ourselves each Sunday. Those are not modest words. Our name, Beacon, is not modest either. We are a beacon because we have chosen to embrace radical inclusion and to work to dismantle oppression. We want to improve the world for everyone. I see this as a congregation with a sense of urgency and one that is swinging for the fences. And there's something kind of miraculous about those aspirations. It's a force that draws us here and keeps us connected and brings out the tremendous energy that we all contribute to make this congregation. Somehow, despite the sorrow and injustice in the world, we manage to sustain a thriving spirit of hope, continually showing one another how the world is beautiful, how each person is beautiful, and how a better future is possible, even in difficult times. We're able to do that because we believe in ourselves. Although I attended a UU congregation as a youth, it wasn't until I got to Beacon that I felt that sense of belief. I believe in all of you. I believe in each of you. I believe in us. And I believe in our potential. This powerful force that Beacon generates needs a physical place, a center, a heart, a place that holds what is important for us, that represents to the world who we are and welcomes everyone, a place that is a true sanctuary. Over a century ago, a small group of people, our predecessors, started this congregation because they needed a religious community that allowed them more spiritual freedom than they could find in other congregations in the community. At first, they met in rented rooms, but then they made a fateful decision that they needed their own building. A few years later, after raising funds and hiring an architect and a contractor, this building was dedicated in October of 1913. For the past 110 years, this building has been our home. It's a beautiful monument to the beliefs, bravery, and generosity of spirit of that small group of congregants who first started gathering in 1908. When this congregation was started, most Unitarians and Universalists considered themselves Christians, though perhaps unorthodox ones. So it made sense for them to build what we all recognize as a church. Of course, that word does not accurately describe us today, and the appearance of our building can be confusing. If someone from out of town were standing right outside looking for the UU congregation, without the signs, they would have no way of knowing which building was the Christian Scientist Church and which was the Unitarian Universalist congregation. And yet, we call ourselves a beacon. But in some ways, we're hidden. Despite a century of transformation in our denomination and our congregation, our building is still sending the same message that it did in 1913. Our congregation now finally, after more than a century, has the opportunity to build again. And thanks to our architect, Louis Cherry, and his team, and our landscape architect, Tavis Stockwiller, and her team, we can see what our new home could look like, the building and the grounds. And it's pretty thrilling. It's an expression of something new. It's not a church, there's no steeple, but it does have a sanctuary. In fact, the entire property would be a sanctuary. It takes our bold aspirations and gives them a place to develop and flower. It's a quietly iconic building, one that promises a new chapter in the life of our congregation. I'm excited to see how our dynamic congregation responds to this opportunity to build a new place for us, one that expresses who we are, gives us room to be ourselves on a larger scale and in a new way, to be a true beacon and share our most deeply held beliefs with the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. With belief in our hearts, let us now invest in our mission through our morning's offering, which will be given and gratefully received. And before the music begins, I just want to say this song is phenomenal. And for those of you who are on this side of the room, the singers upstairs, I just want to invite you to move over to that side of the room, even if you have to stand in the aisles, because that's what I'm going to do. The offering will now be given.
Could be, who knows? There's something due any day. I will know right away, soon as it shows. It may come cannonballing down through the sky, gleaming its eye, bright as a rose. Who knows? It's only just out of reach, down the block, on a beach, under a tree. I got a feeling there's a miracle due, gonna come true, coming to me. Could it be? Yes, it could. Something's coming, something good, if I can wait. Something's coming, I don't know what it is, but it is gonna be great. With a click, with a shock, phone'll jingle, door'll knock, open the latch. Something's coming, don't know when, but it's soon. Catch the moon, one-handed catch. Around the corner, or whistling down the river. Come on, deliver to me. Will it be? Yes, it will. Maybe just by holding still, it'll be there. Come on, something, come on in. Don't be shy, meet a guy, pull up a chair. The air is humming, and something great is coming. Who knows? It's only just out of reach, down the block, on a beach. Maybe tonight, maybe tonight, maybe tonight, maybe tonight.
Ross, John, Misa, wherever you are, that was a gift. Thank you. I almost went down the aisle snapping. Almost. Has anyone read the children's book? Maybe you will read this at some point. No, David. Anyone? Okay, we got a lot of hands. Got a lot of hands, especially from the balcony. No, David. It's about a small child who gets into some trouble. Maybe not good trouble. All he hears from his big people is, no, David. When he uses his paints on the living room wall, that becomes his canvas. No, David. Splashing in the bathtub like a pirate, as you do. No, David. Banging on the pots and the pans in your own parade. What do you say? No, David. And you don't just say no, David. Because when you're a big person walking into a room, hearing the pots and pans, you say, no, David. Can I hear that? No, David. Yeah. I have been both David and the big person walking into the room, seeing my living room wall aflush in paint, thinking, at the same time, what creativity, and oh my goodness. David brings his world of imagination and creativity to life, and it disrupts the relative ordered life of his big people. I arrived at Beacon as your assistant minister when I was barely pregnant with my first daughter. She will soon, fingers crossed, be getting her driver's license. 17, almost 18 years is a gloriously long time with a faith community. Beacon, I have learned, is a congregation filled to the brim with imagination and creativity. We are longing to flourish. It has been wonderful to be a part of this place. And goodness gracious, we hear a lot of no's from the outside world. When we decided that we were going to raise $100,000 to give away at our 100th anniversary, we heard, "No, Beacon, you can't do that." When we decided that we were going to raise a Black Lives Matter banner on Springfield Avenue, we heard, "No, Beacon, you can't do that." When we said we're going to create a daily community for our unhoused neighbors here in Summit, we heard, "No, Beacon, you can't do that." And our response, like David's, is, "Watch us. Watch us." With one tiny exception, Beacon's home, our 0.2, in case you heard 2 acres, it's 0.2 acres here, this little footprint. We don't need others to tell us no, though they do, thanks zoning board, because those voices, no, you can't possibly do that, they're firmly rooted within the collective consciousness of this community. You've heard that in some of the history. We have some great ideas, but then we get belabored with no, no. And I've now been here so long that it's in my head too. Messages like, "You can't possibly move our sanctuary up a block." Messages like, "Dangler Funeral Home," the former Sotheby's, "won't ever sell to us." They did. We couldn't possibly find land in Summit with parking. Lo and behold, we did. We couldn't possibly raise enough money. We've already raised more money than anyone thought possible, like just 3 years ago. So when it comes to investing in our home, these no's have a long history. This congregation was a test case in my seminary class 20 years ago around our relationship to space and building. 20 years ago, brought by Beacon's minister emeritus. He left here and went to teach seminary, and I ended up in his class, and this congregation was in my class. It goes all of the way back to our founders. And I don't know how many of you remember this story. Our founders who were proposing that we start a Unitarian congregation here in Summit, that was on the floor. Let's do this, way back in 1907 and 1908. And they couldn't get enough votes to do that. So one wonderful man, Russell Hinman, voted to not start a Unitarian congregation here in Summit, and that was unanimously dismissed. So we started a congregation because we said no to not starting a congregation. That no is firmly in there. I will say we've gotten better. We're now really good, pretty good at purchasing land. We see a dream and we're like, yeah, let's do it. The building next door, 1.8 acres surrounded by parkland down the street. But then we get spooked when it comes time to put a shovel in the ground. That's when I have witnessed, over the course of the last 17 years, a steady stream of no's come out of our collective consciousness. We don't have enough. We don't have enough land. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough people. We don't have enough parking. We hear things like, the neighbors won't like it.
We hear things like, we don't have all the answers to all of the possible questions that could emerge in this process. We don't have those answers right now. And we haven't yet found the right architectural plan that satisfies everyone's needs so that no one gets upset with us. And then this one, which is really true and very hard for us. It's unethical to spend the money on ourselves. It's tough. Please hear me. Limits aren't necessarily bad. I only wonder why we meet some challenges, like those missional challenges working for others, with persistence, with a yes, we can, and we greet the challenges for the flourishing of this community as if it was a foregone conclusion of no, we can't do that. I have often wondered, are we too scared of failing our mission? Or are we too scared of succeeding? Do we want to continue to hide? And so we stay small in our 0.2 box without realizing that our mission lives in that box as well. Now, I have a soft spot for an old gospel teaching of Jesus from Matthew. And I know for Unitarian Universalists to sing Amazing Grace and have a scripture reading might be a little bit hard, but go with me. Because I have to say, I feel like this story was written for us. There Jesus is with his community of friends and neighbors, people dispossessed by the empire, many of whom have heard the words, "No, you are not enough. Whatever you are imagining can't possibly happen." They've heard that too often. And there Jesus is with them, sitting on a literal hill, and he invites them to have a different perspective. He says to them, "You are here to be a light." Not just you, not just me, all of us. We are here to bring out all of the colors that is in that light and to shine them. Now, I think Beacon knows that message here. We're very good at being intellectual. That's why we build partnerships. That's why we foster ties with community around us in Summit, but also around the world. I mean, we just had a group come back from Hawaii, India, for heaven's sakes. But Jesus asks us to know it here in our hearts, to hope, to believe in our potential, saying we're going to need to go public with our hearts, as public as a city on a hill. You all remember where you are, right? After all, this is exactly where our ancestors back in 1907 and 1908 claimed our home, a summit on a hill. And he says, and if you become light bearers on this hill, what will you become? A beacon. Did we not actually change our name to Beacon? Something we thought we could never do? He says, why would you hide your light under a bushel or a bucket? You have climbed this summit to shine. So shine. Build a house that is open, he says. Be generous with your life, he says. Because when you open yourselves to your potential, when you believe in it, beloved community cannot help but flourish, because others will be inspired to flourish with you. Beacon, all we have to do is shine. What if we've been given not just one opportunity, but opportunity after opportunity, because we have something worth shining for? Theologies seated in love in a world of hate. A mission rooted in radical inclusion in a time of exclusion. A covenant grounded in repair and healing when people don't know how to say, "I'm sorry," or "you are forgiven." We have something worth claiming, shining, And what if we are called by the holy or by one another or by our partners, by those whose voices have been diminished or silenced? What if we have been called to shine because we have a part to play in the flourishing of beloved community? And what if we met our inner resistance, all of those no's that we tell ourselves, with the same persistence that we have done again and again because we believe in the power of our potential? What if? Just hold on to that. So I end this moment on this day of launch with a prayer. Because I think sometimes we need a moment of prayer before we leap. Would you pray with me? I know I'm pushing it. I'm pushing it. These are some of the words from my colleague, Tamara Labach. Take a deep breath. Centering yourself in your heart. Today, let us remember to breathe deeply, poised on the edge of our becoming. And let us risk jumping in, so that at the end of our life, we can say with absolute clarity that no part of our existence on this precious earth with our one precious life was wasted in fear of failure or fear of success. Let this be our prayer. Amen. Beloved, we have a baby worth shining for. So let us shine. And this is the moment where Robin and I do the old switcheroo.
In time. It is incredible. We are going to continue to shine by dedicating a baby today to our congregation. Today we are honoring and affirming the presence of Callie Jane Saluka in this interconnected web of all life and in our Beacon community. Tanya and Joe, thank you for allowing us to be a part of your lives and Callie's life. Friends and family who are gathered here, who have traveled to be with us, thank you for joining us in this threshold moment. We are reminded in this moment of the words of Khalil Gibran. Your children are not your children. They are the children of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. As we continue in this threshold moment, we want to invite some more dwellers in the house of tomorrow as we welcome our children into our sanctuary with us. I'm going to motion a little bit more robustly. Lucy, and maybe the ushers can help me, or some folks in the back row, to get our children. Thank you, Debbie. Good work. You can sit right next to Scott. There we go. Keep coming forward, wherever you want to be. If you're a back rower, that's okay. If you're a front rower, come on up front. Valentina and Ella, there are 2 seats over here. Now I'm just calling out names. invite Jermaine Kripe forward, member of our Lifespan Ministry team. There's 2 seats right there. It is.
Oh, good. For over 100 years, families have brought their children into the sanctuary to be dedicated by this community and to affirm an indwelling of tomorrow with each child who is dedicated. Just like it was a long time ago, it's your presence and your intentions today that make this space sacred. We are all here as well to dedicate ourselves to supporting this family. We candle lights for Callie's ancestors, still living and those deceased, who form a chorus of blessings together.
You just need to find the basket.
Where is the basket? There it is.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
And so we light candles for Anne Marie Halauchuk. Halachuk, sorry, my apologies. Jane Clavey. Steve Sato. Jane Santo. Jane Morrison. Joseph Stanley Saluga. Joseph Paul Saluga. Oh, Ari, be careful, sweetheart. I don't want you falling on the floor. And Elizabeth Teresa Saluga.
Why should I have candles?
For all the people's names I just read off, those are Callie's ancestors. And so even though they can't be here in person, they're here in spirit.
Thank you. So Tanya and Joe, if you'd come forward now, please. So Joe and Tanya, I ask you, what have you named this child? You have chosen this name in part because of family. Jane for Joe's aunt, great-grandmother, grandmother, and cousin. Callie Jane as a nod to the strong female character, Claudia Jean in West Wing. And a name that means beautiful and lovely in Greek. So may you be blessed, Callie Jane, with beauty in heart, with strength in deeds and words, and family in your very being.
Well, I guess they're gonna have 2 moms.
These waters have been gathered across 32 water communions, our annual ritual of ingathering where each member of our community brings water of significance to a common vessel. These waters are also the same that animated movements for justice, prophets for all people, and everyday heroes. Water is indeed our sustainer, a renewing force, and so may this element call forth blessing in these moments. This is where we'll see if Callie will let me hold her. Hi, love. Yeah? Okay. Here we go. What do you think? Mom's right there, so is Dad. Okay, you ready for the first one? Callie, as I touch these waters to your forehead, we offer the intention that your mind will always be open to ask big questions, to be unafraid to offer a powerful vision to us all, and to receive the wisdom of those all around you. As I touch this rose, may your heart be nourished by the love of this circle, always expanding in compassion. May joy, happiness, and blessing be woven into your very being. And as we bless your feet that are very cute, I'm admiring your shoes. I might need a pair of those. May your feet travel the pathways of peace, discover new adventures, and even as these feet may carry you very far, may they return you to your family and to this circle again and again. May love always guide your path, beautiful one. We bless your hands that they may hold those whom you love and who love you, knowing the security of true companions on this blue spinning ball we call home. Bring us works of justice and healing by these hands. Reach out as well to each other when you need balance or play or when the way is hard. Because sometimes it's hard, right, beloved? Callie, we pray you may always know that you are never alone. I have to give her back.
I'll get her at social hour. Tanya and Joe, we affirm today your immense responsibility as parents to Callie. It'll be your task in the years and the decades to come to instill into sweet Callie a strong sense of self and of self-worth. To teach Callie to be curious, but not judgmental. To cultivate in Callie a deep sense of empathy and compassion for those in need, and encourage them to use their time and talents to make a positive impact to this world. Will you both accept the charge to do this to the best of your abilities?
I'd like to invite forward Keith Thompson to come stand beside Joe and Tanya. You have been chosen, Keith, by Joe and Tanya as a companion to Callie. It will be your task in the years and decades to come to support Callie's personal growth and exploration of inner values and beliefs. And so I ask you now, Keith, will you accept this charge to the best of your abilities? I will. I also want to note that Joe's sister, Katie Laredo, couldn't be with us today as she lives in Canada, but she will also be a spiritual parent to Callie.
Would Callie's family please rise? All those present? Will you promise to be a part of that village, supporting Callie's learning and the values her parents hold steadfast to, and being a companion to parenting Tanya and Joe? Will you all accept this charge to the best of your abilities? All right, kids, this is the part we practice. Could you all stand up? Today's message talked about inclusion and those intersections that we have in our lives. And one intersection that Callie is now about to join you with is being members of the Beacon community. So as members of this Beacon community, she is your latest companion. Will you journey with her in the years to come? From small groups and rites of passage to coming of age and the youth group, you got to be here for a few years. You're going to be here with her. Will you promise to be a good companion by being helpful to her and to one another and growing compassion and love in our world altogether? If so, will you say, we will?
And now I would like to invite the entire congregation, everyone gathered here, to rise as you are able. Those watching us virtually, please rise. I invite you to take a hand, and if you can, place it on the person in front of you. If you're in the balcony, put that hand down toward Callie. For a Unitarian Universalist community, a blessing is not conferred by a single minister, but by the congregation. And so I ask you, Beacon, are you ready to help companion Tanya, Joe, and Callie Jane? Will you offer them the love that is our source and our return? Extend community through shared learning, support, and joy. If you will accept this charge and extend this blessing, I ask you to answer, we will. We will. So, Callie Jane, we welcome you to Beacon. I invite you to keep standing as you're able and join us in singing a familiar tune on this day of shining, This Little Light of Mine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Invite you to remain standing as we welcome Joe and Tanya back toward their seats for our closing benediction. Beautiful.
So when you walked in today, when you arrived today, you were given a small card, hopefully, and if not, the ushers will come and give you one. They said things on them like dream and hope, believe and shine. Now there's a little secret message on the inside that you can actually open and see a message for you in case you ever start to doubt or hear a no. There is a message for you. And so we invite you as we close the service. Normally we hold hands, but now we're going to wave. If you are a dreamer and your card says dream, wave your hands. If you are someone filled with hope, raise your hands. If you are a believer, as the monkeys sang, raise your hands. And if you are on a summit ready to shine, raise your hands. I know some of you are like, all right, all right. I also know that some of you are like, I'm really not this, I'm that. But that's what social hour is for, because you can swap with one another. Would you actually take hands with one another? And Steve, if you'll hold the chalice. We are grateful this day for the new babies among us, the families that walk into this place with hope and intuition. For all of those who are hearing no, who want to hear yes to their imagination and their creativity. Let us go out into this place, downstairs to see our dreams, and let us envision them and act until they become our home. So may it be. You want to blow that out?